Hello, there are a whole bunch of people on and off the state of Connecticut corrections offices involved with people named Cololo and Demaro and their educators involved with child abusers, leaders of kids, roles, first forced and years apart. And Weathersfield police and courts faking transcripts and faking falsified police reports, fake ties to little kids at the police departments. These are increasingly roles with a bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, all kinds of medical and sexual offenders of kids, with judges and prosecutors and their family members, including women, judges, everyone speaking to others. Everyone know they're gonna discern once you get them on paper. The Weathersfield police have been forging and switching names, retired police chiefs from Weathersfield. So when you hear them repeating, these are people showing they need to hide and pretend to be against roles with things they have collusions. They have on a mass scale, predicate acts with facts, collusions with all natures of crime scenes. And then to hide that, they have roles with killers and with a principal child abuser that they forced collusions with. Also with names next to the killer's body dumping spot, with the people involved with the principal, a child abuser, whole bunch of foreign and domestic, military and medical involved with the kids that went to my grammar school. I never had a conversations with. They weren't even in my classrooms. And they did where there's exceptions. They've been using those exceptions criminally for an influence, tax conclusions, raw too. They'll tell you, but you have to ask them, right? Otherwise, they're going to pretend passions, emotions. Since they were little kids with the intelligence families, foreign and domestic, they've been they've been roles with all natures of investigation. The investigators use criminally remote. They're just changing and faking what's actually recorded. They're pretending whole fake transcripts at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, with people involved with the World Trade Center attack at Washington D.C. and at New York, who also have it involved with their roles all along Route 175, having acted in the past to make both sides of issues like kids pretending to be fighting with each other while they're really just putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to other people and sequence shifts and for others to perceive that, which is also brought up again because they have more roles with child abusers, leaders of kids, first forced, and more then and now recorded, including the abused kids involved with the roles with the forcing the other ones. Everyone speaking through others involved with it too. So these campuses were the prisons have roles with crime methods where they change and fake what's actually recorded reality, while they have delusions too. Increasingly, they have collusions with the campuses that train them. The state police in interstates are involved with people like with the name Colo and Demaro, Mike Roberts. I only know him as one of the ones involved from other areas, planting evidences with names on my street, involved increasingly with some police that faked conversations with me as a kid and I was an adult at the Weathersfield police station. They have predicate acts with the judicial branch offices and with conjunctions to it like Route 3 and like Weathersfield Pizza House is increasingly involved with people on all sides of Central Connecticut State University and with the Stephen Stocko involved within New Britain Central Connecticut State University, involved with his educators. And I never saw Maria Vizino on a campus in my life. He's involved with Maria Vizino and people, her neighbors, with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, fake wire crimes of Weathersfield police, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, with people with the FBI too, with Central Connecticut State University, and with his educators from Weathersfield, involved with my neighbors too, with child abusers, leaders of kids, first forced, years apart, including the ones tied further to the Stephen Stocko with the schools involved with criminally foreign influence. I never had a word of conversation with him. He was bullied the whole time by a Ray Colo and a Paul Zano. That was an exception. They're trying to make it look like fake ties, fake nature ties to me. I never had a class with Paul Zano in middle school or grammar school. Increasingly, people from my grammar school tied to a Paul Zano have been putting fake things in databases with medical and sexual offenders of kids involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. And his roles planting evidence is having people like taking a pic. He sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate for him. He's got state interstates campuses, Johnson and Wales, involved with him with a Cololo family and a whole bunch of people tied to them with a whole bunch of different countries, foreign and domestic military, and people involved with the name Scalora, involved with the World Trade Center attack and the Saudi attackers and American side, Saudi side used remotely, criminally foreign influence by worse, a hyper foreign. This is also what was non-distinctly sort of southern colonies and northern colonies entrenched with slavery before America's founders were born. and roles with the communications of our founders being and haven't been replaced are these names with these organized crimes at the campuses. And then with the ones needing to pretend to be against it because they have roles with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, with the family that runs the prisons and the families that run the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices. A bunch of people tied to it tomorrow. One's named tomorrow and Colol have roles also per themselves with people named Napolitano, also with Ron Adams on YouTube, brought up the name Judge Napolitano. He said he was in Judge Napolitano's a wedding with him. And in other words, Judge Napolitano, before and after he was with Fox News has a bunch of intelligence people next to them in Hartford, Connecticut, involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, including with religious spots, involved with criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw readings of reality too, in religious books, relative too, because they have names on all sides of religious locations, other religious spots, like involved with the Kerr family that also went to a St. Anthony school that they brought into their confessions and demonstrations, and they're themselves pretending others simultaneously, which is also recorded. But they have roles with a Judge Smith, increasingly other judges and prosecutors and their family members. One's tied to a Delafair family. Whole bunch of people all along Route 3 and in conjunctions to it and to that, like the state judicial branch offices, have roles with probate court judges and superior court judges and their family members and prosecutors and their family members involved with predicate acts with kids on my street and with the same houses involved with falsified police reports and faked conversations with me and having been faked me being at the police station as a kid and then as an adult. And they covered that up by pretending that through the news too. They have roles of all natures of investigations. Investigators use remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, interstates. A whole bunch of people tied to a Mike Roberts are also involved interstates with medical locations, with sexual and medical offenders of kids, tied to a Jennifer Kennepicky, involved with a John Maiano, involved with people on all sides of Hartford Hospital and at Hartford Hospital, with more natures of organized crime roles than they have streets in Hartford and Wethersfield together, with a few dozen people. So and judges and prosecutors and their kids involved with the names next to the campuses, all kind of predicate acts with facts methods, all kinds of natures of abuses of kids, because there are only three branches of government that have to hide how they were used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, and pretending others simultaneously. For the breaching method, screening their roles with a whole bunch of different countries as nutbags speaking about things like crimes together on our campuses while they have roles of predicate acts with facts methods. They have roles on all sides of criminal and civil cases. And kids, since they are young, being used to cover up a whole bunch of things. In other words, not one of them is capable of not hiding things and changing what's actually recorded. There are proofs that they have people that are taking oaths. Like, too, when they speak about their oath, they don't care about their oath. In other words, and their oath comes in people telling them to hide the lies and all kinds of things. They have a whole bunch of different countries involved with these people with the name Kalal and tomorrow, and they're educators involved with people planting evidences on my street and all sides of it, and the streets parallel to it, with people that were involved with home break-ins years ago and spots next to it, all brought up in the syntax and confessions tied to it. And the ones more recent, increasingly whiting forensics has roles with a bunch of people with predicate acts involved with them, and state police involved with them, interstates, with the ones involved with former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members. Don LeConte has roles with people involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids. I never had a word of conversation with Don LeConte in my life. There are proofs they took a picture of me standing near her so they could pretend I had fake ties, fake natures of ties, and changed ties with that one fake exception with the Don LeConte. Increasingly involved with people that have been putting predicate acts with facts from people from other campuses, with people that were at my campuses. I didn't have classes with them. They're putting fake things in the databases of campuses, and they're involved with abuses of the kids of the leaders of the campuses, specifically so they won't go into details as collusion and abuses of them or the other kids. The difference of that is exploited too. And so we have black people's whites of eyes. We have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. They have roles communicating other than our founders communicated to have communicated for ourselves and for them regarding how the breaching method forced everyone to collusions with the breaching methods reassignments of black-white communications, therefore, and even more because we have black people's whites of eyes and others. In other words, interbranch have been refusing to get on paper on a mass scale. They fake and change evidences as collusions from the interbranch locations with all natures of crime scenes, all natures of time treatments. The prisons are involved with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes with them. Federal evidence is racketeering, worse than war crimes. They can't afford to have anything as is actually recorded, revealed. There's a slow, steady torture method that they had roles with before they had roles with the World Trade Center attack effectively pulled off to have them pretend to want and need, torture and pretend not to realize that they have roles with the constitutions of imprisonments and all kinds of wire and mail crime methods and digital crime methods. The agencies have all kinds of collusions right through administrations too. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, regardless if it was the president's writing the pens or not. They have F.B.I. directors, plural. James Comey and his wife is reportedly and demonstrably involved with Puff Daddy and all sides of criminal and civil cases. Since before that, I noted him involved with it, and people with other cases where they have all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the judges' families members involved next to the campuses, also with the F.B.I. director, with sexual and medical offenders, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, not legitimately their roles with foreign and domestic military, their roles with Cuba, their roles with investigations of the World Trade Center attack. You guys should fear God. Get back. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. Get me off the fake conversations with Channel 3 News, WFSB. They have collusions intercities and with people involved in my fourth grade class with the South Saviello, increasingly involved with body dumping spots and other natures of organized crimes, involved with the intelligence next to WFSB, involved with mass fake transcript and evidences, changing and faking things pretended recorded by making transcripts on campuses filmed 24/7 to put fake ties and fake natures of ties to kids. There are only three branches of government. They have to hide how they were used and are used remotely three ways: criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence. See, better than perfectly, unceasingly, increasingly since founding. The only way to make America great again is to have James Madison's plan reviewed again, because you guys had it wrong then and now. But in other words, get them on paper, one name and sequence, please. The agencies have been affecting the algorithms of the online companies. Facebook personally, though, some ways too, they have people involved and people with their ad placements involved. All along Route 175 from Old Weathersfield founding locations and next to it. There's people that will pretend other and say that they'll tell you, I don't know them at all, except for them seeking me out as strangers, and ones I don't know all pretend other, as with the ones that I only know really quickly, seek me out from Old Weathersfield locations, the founding locations where George Washington had to come while counter-extort and force the rest of the founders. And at Old Weathersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. They had to force the means to win it there. But they had to leave slavery entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies. We were supposed to explain how and why they wanted nothing to do with slavery, but they had to leave it entrenched. We're supposed to understand this. We're supposed to understand James Madison's plan. We're supposed to understand how they had to counter-extort the rest of the founders, both colonists, regular colonists, and Native Americans. And there are proofs that Native Americans were a part of those founders, plural, behind James Madison's plan that helped him and them counter and colonists they coupled with to counter-extort George Washington and have him agree to help and counter-extort everyone else and to fight to get the Constitution unabridged, but using James Madison's plan. And that was just to use the breaching methods, crazy, fact, human nature, torture, extortion, slavery laws against everyone to exploit that, to make them break the rules, and they had no way to defend themselves without the help of our founders and the plan. They were trapped. Not one has wrapped vaccines. I keep those things belong. You guys have serious. You should fear God with these prisons. People pretending that the prisons are against child abusers. They are involved with all natures of organized crimes and crime scenes. They are involved too, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, drop with a whole bunch of different countries with their extended family members too. Involved at corners of streets, hiding life progressions, hiding their rules with differences, racketeering past and now. Name their roles with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the names of the courts, the lawyers, the news at the same time, putting the same self-valued sequence shifts in sick fact-treating nature, quality aspects, and natures of collusions and methods by this, how they get away with it too. That's why you guys aren't following mandated law on a mass scale. You guys are all being coached by the FBI too to cover up their collusions with the World Trade Center attack, with Saudi attackers too, them and themselves used remotely at the same time. It's increasingly people from Washington, D.C. and with New York involved with names that went to Central Connecticut State University from Wethersfield, Connecticut, and names next to them. A Heather Hansen and a Joe DeMoro and a whole bunch of people have all along Route 175 from the founding locations and like conjunctions to it. Neighbors of a Pandolf family and a Pandolf family is involved with their educators too, putting fake things and fake ties, fake natures of ties between students, wire crime acts and methods roles. I never tried to contact Mike Pandolf. He's one of the ones that in the line of people involved with the World Trade Center attack. That's one of the things that connects them. People that sought me out to plant evidences with all sides of criminal and civil cases and the depositions too, putting the same sequence, yes, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me as ones involved with the World Trade Center attack too. Has something to do with there too, with the So get them on paper, one name in sequence, please. Get Judge Napolitano reformed. Judge Napolitano, please get them on paper, one name in sequence. In other words, and get me off the fake communications with the Wethersfield police and the courts too. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. They're gonna say sorry to you, Judge Napolitano, or they're gonna have problems. I get them on paper, they're gonna have problems because they're just too fake. CT must break, but there is seed. Everything comes surging forward to help us there. Follow mandated law. And then please read. Judge Napolitano, Fox News, please get them on paper, one name in sequence. CNN, you guys have roles with people from Saudi Arabia, Russia, Ukraine, involved with the intelligence next to Central Connecticut State University, including ones that work at Central Connecticut State University that have roles with houses near it, like Covington Street, is involved with a bunch of people, and two with the leasing agent with his kid, involved with sexual circles with some strippers. Even if they are intelligence families involved with East Hartford, they have the FBI director, Robert Luskin, and foreign and domestic families involved with them, and courts with confessions. They affected confessions requests to help to me from before I lived there, too, no. So they're kind of trying to cover that up. And since intercities, a whole bunch of people tied with conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices in Route 3, involved with men and women that use the name Bobby, and they have rules with stripper locations per themselves, with men and women involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and sexual circles involved with the son of a leasing agent. I don't know his name yet. He's involved with identity theft frauds and World Trade Center predicate acts with the FBI too, and some prosecutors and judges and victims advocates involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and sexual and medical offenders of kids, including women roles with it, so they can play and pretend stupid and keep putting the fake transcript and fake conversations with people in their families and with themselves and pretended into databases. You need to get them on paper because they have collusions with the news this way too, and with the internet companies. In other words, there's an officer Poison further with Hotmail involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids and organized crimes with Hotmail involved with the officer Poison, also involved with some murders and body dumping spots and untimely deaths that brought up a principal child abuser's campus and rules forcing that with ones that were abused when they were kids, but years ago with other child abusers leaders forced. In other words, And I'm not just using other people's reports and confessions. I'm using what's, in other words, black people's rights of eyes, not legitimate voices for science slash S spoke, not one. And they're valuing the other sciences. Oh, I'm not a lawyer. Since the lawyers have been collusions too, since founding. What are witch trials about? Witch trials, you don't leave out what the slavery laws are about. At the same time, you don't leave out what that was sustained against Native Americans. The difference is racketeering worse than war crimes. That's changing what black people's rights of eyes communicate. And what our founders communicated about this. Our founders declassified that and how they didn't and why they did not have free speech. They communicated that clear. It's declassified. Nature itself shows us that. You guys have their words used, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought by your educators in you guys' roles, using them because they're an expert as evidence against what nature communicates to us black pupils. When did they have the integrity to speak? One expert. We're not going to. This is inseparable from any of these subjects treatments. How we have black people's rights of eyes and then breaching method reassigned it. It's nature's communications with this, and how they reassign our founders' communications with that at the same time. Even if you don't know about how James Madison's plan was involved too, and how they, in other words, nature itself should show you the proofs of it. But you guys are too tactically delusions wrought and abused since you were kids, formally and informally.